Hi there, Dave here with yet another version of our famous house square foot calculator. In this one, we're going to be able to display everything at the end and then be able to learn about global variables and learn how to have a module return multiple values. Well, this thing really operates. It's much more complicated than the previous version. So let's first take a look at what it does. So I'm going to go ahead and run the A version, which is what we're going to cover here. We're going to cover the B version, which is a redoing of the reorganizing of the code called refactoring. Next video. So we're asking for the name of the homeowner. That's going to be the value of our global constant. And then we're going to go ahead and enter 3 for this guy and 4 for his width. And then we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and enter minus 66 for this guy. And it says, nah, go ahead and try the second bedroom, see if you can do better with that. So we'll go with 5 and 6. And sure enough, see, it prints everything at the end. It says the living room is 3 by 4 and the bedroom is 0. Because it's minus 66, that doesn't work out so well. 5 by 6, so we got a total of 42. There's 2 valid rooms, so we have an average of 21 square feet. All works out real well. So we didn't used to be able to print all this stuff, and this average stuff is new too. So we're going to use an array to print this stuff, and we're going to use this ability of a module to return multiple things to facilitate that. So let's go ahead and take a look at that code. Let's look at it in the pseudocode here, since that's where I wind up being. Notice that we have now the get room area, and it used to return just an integer. It takes in the room name, right? But now notice that it also returns a string. And that string is actually being created by this create room output line, which is being executed right here. And it doesn't do anything except just create the line. And some of you might think that I could just go ahead and put it up here, which I could. Well, I have a one-liner down here. Well, sometimes it's because I made a mistake and over modularized, and other times it's because I anticipate that sometime in the future this is going to become more complicated. And so I'm organizing the code now because I know I'm going to want this. I don't know. You got to look at the next time when we take a look at the refactoring thing, right? All right. So we're returning 2 variables from this guy. He's being called up here in main. There's where he's being called. This is like he was being called before, just the same way. There's the get room area where we're passing in the name of the room. But notice that now instead of just returning one thing here, it's returning 2 things. So it's returning line sub 0, which is the first bucket in the array called lines. And here's where we've declared lines. So in the first position, we're going to put whatever line is being returned. And this is what we're going to display down at the bottom. So see where we display line 0, sub 1, sub 2. So this guy is returning multiple values. Not only is he returning the square feet area of that particular room, he's also returning the string that's going to be printed later on. Very simple. Whoops. The other thing that this version is taking a look at is global variables. So here we have declared this global variable, global constant, homeowner's name. We're just going to change it. We're going to put something into it once and agree that it's never going to be changed again. So we're going to call it a constant. And it says maybe an okay use of globals. Maybe. So there it's defined. And notice now when we come into main, this is where we input it right here. So we ask the user homeowner's name, and there's where we take it in. And there's where there's our definition of our array. Now, notice that here's where we place the string that's being returned by the getRoomArea function. So in the first line that's being displayed, but we have to ask whether the square feet that's being returned this time is greater than 0. The only time we want to increment our counter, and I suppose also answer, although answer works with a 0 if you add a 0 in, but the only time we want to increment the counter is if we have square feet greater than 0. So that's how we come up with our counter being correct. So that when we come into our bottom here, here's where we use our global variable again, and here's where we use answer and count. Okay, let's take a look at the code. Here's how we define a global constant. Define it up here. And so that's the very first thing that's executed, right? That's the very first line is 64. And then the next line that's executed is way down at the bottom. We know that. It's main, 122. That comes up to main, starts executing main. Here's where we give ourselves access to the global right there. And so we give ourselves access to it right there and set its value right inside of here so that in fact we can use it down here. Notice also that getRoomArea also uses the global, and so therefore must also define access to that global. And there's where getRoomArea uses it to tell about a bad length. Okay. So down at the bottom of the code, we just merely print those lines. Here's the declaration of our array. Notice we just make an array with 3 empty strings in it in Python. And then down here we can see how we set that and how we go ahead and print each one of those lines, and then how we print that the bottom too. Okay, so there is a much more complicated version of this thing, and actually I don't like the way that main is looking. It's looking too complicated. I need to refactor this, and also all the pseudocode is so far away now from the code that it's starting to get confusing. So we're going to move things around a bit in the next version of this same project. So in the next movie, I'll talk about the refactoring of this project. Take care.